fam? It's another Friday evening out here at Ebenezer way, chilling on the stoop. You all know how we do it. Every Friday night we come here. Now look, tonight I have a special guest coming. Special guest may be running a little late because they're coming all the way from Montgomery, Alabama, down in the deep south. I know y'all don't know about that up here in the DMV. But look, while we're waiting on our guests to show up, I know many young folks, you all have called me, text me, have sent me messages and saying how frustrated. Some of y'all even want to go downtown and protest. And I get it. I sympathize and I understand. And that's why I made a call to our special guest, because the guest is able to speak from a different perspective of growing up and what we're having to deal with right now. But while we wait for our guest to come, let me share this scripture with you all. It comes from 1 Timothy. And it says, God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but a spirit of power, love, and sound mind. Stand in spite of what we're dealing with as a nation, in spite of the outbreaks that started in Minneapolis because of the murder of our beloved brother George Floyd. Remember, God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity. That word timidity means you don't lack courage and you do not lack confidence. I'm somebody who understands what it means to lack confidence and courage, because sometimes the enemy will use our weaknesses against us. Sometimes God can place you in situations and you'll question, why am I here? And sometimes you won't step up to the plate because you don't understand why God had you in that place. But I remember, God has not given you a spirit of fear. Whatever we're dealing with, we have nothing to fear. Whatever you're going through, never lack confidence and courage, because remember, if God led you to the table, if God opened up the door and led you to the room, God has you there for a purpose. And our guests can talk about walking in rooms and how God has opened up doors. But on the flip side, God said, I have not given you a spirit of fear. I have not given you a spirit of timidity, but I have given you a spirit of power. We have the power to overcome what we're dealing with right now as a nation. The Bible says, and I have given you a spirit of love. In other words, in spite of our frustration, our hurt, and anger, we still have to walk in the love that God gives to us. But this is the last thing. He says, I have given you a spirit of self-discipline. Now, young folks, I know many of you want to go down there and loot. Many of you want to go, not loot, but to protest. But to remember, if you're going to go out and activate your God-given right to protest, you must do it in the power that God has given you. You must do it in the love that God bestows upon you. But more importantly, you have to walk in self-discipline. You have to do what's right and not what's wrong. God does not send you down a protest to break into the Louis store, to break into the Montclair store, to go into the David Yurman store, to go into the Nike store, the Foot Locker store, to even take a car out of a dealership and drive it down the street. That's not what the protest is about. But I'm not going to try to get too much, because I think I hear our guest coming. Y'all stay right there. I know many of y'all don't know who our guest is, but if you ever know somebody who has a key to a city, that's who our guest is. If you ever know somebody who has a day named after them, that's who our guest is. If you ever know somebody who the president, not this president, but our president, President Barack Hussein Obama, has appointed over certain educational committees, that's who our guest is. I know you all don't know this guest, but let me show you all. Let's welcome our guest on tonight, none other than Reverend Dr. Gwendolyn Boyd. Hey, Dr. B. Hey, I can't hug you, but here we go.
All right.
Thank you for coming on out. How are you?
My pleasure. My pleasure.
How was your
doing
trip?
great.
I know you had to come from Montgomery.
It was great. It was great. All right. You know, not many people on the planes these days.
I know that's right. That's right.
Yeah, but it was good.
Thank you for coming out here to Ebenezer way, chilling on the stoop, talking to the kids.
Absolutely.
We had many young folks viewing.
Absolutely. Hi. How are you this evening?
Now, this is somebody who grew up in Montgomery. This is somebody who can talk to us about overcoming. And so I'm going to just let Dr. Boyd talk to you all and encourage you young folks. Listen to what God says to her and through her as a source of inspiration and strength to speak to these days and times.
Yes, thank you, Reverend Akil, and good evening. Blessings and peace to all of you as we deal with all of the things that are happening during the pandemic, and then the reaction of the killing of our brother George in Minneapolis, and so many others, Brianna and Ahmaud, all those within the course of 30 days. But we also know, as Reverend Akil has said to us, that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but love, power, and a sound mind. And growing up in Montgomery, Alabama, where the seat of a lot of the marches started, because that's where Dr. King started his career in ministry at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. And even though I wasn't a member of Dexter Avenue, because I've been Methodist all my life, but everybody knew where Dexter Avenue was. It was at the foot of the Capitol, as a reminder to those like George Wallace who sat in those seats in the Capitol that we would not go away. Dr. King would have marches, peaceful protest at the steps of the Capitol to remind everybody that we are not going away, that we will walk in our power, we will walk in our authority, because God has given us that power and authority. We will not allow people to overlook us and dismiss us and intimidate us and bully us, because God has given us power. God has given us confidence. God has given us strength. God has given us knowledge and wisdom to know how to deal with the reaction of the things that are happening right now. So as we are moving in the DMV, we encourage you, as Reverend Akil has said, peaceful protest gets your message across. When you're stealing and looting, then the message gets diluted. Yeah. But when you're walking in peaceful protest, much so as Dr. King did, people respected him whenever he came into a city because they knew he came with a message, he walked in his spiritual authority, and he was never ever ashamed to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. That was what he used to introduce his message, and then he went forward to let people know how that they could walk in authority, how they should go and vote. Voting makes the difference. And I know some of you are too young to vote right now, but when you come of age, remember, it's voting and putting people in power, authority in government, who will allow you to have and continue to have all the freedoms that you want. When I was growing up in Montgomery many moons ago, people, as they do now, we lived in segregated communities in Alabama. In Montgomery, there was the black side of the community and there was the white side. And you didn't cross that line unless there was trouble. When I was one of the 5 who integrated my junior high school. And when 5 young black students showed up in this all-white high school, there was trouble. They did not want us there. They looked at us as if we were from Mars. They treated us as if we had no brains, no authority to be there to get a quality education. But we were able to hold our ground because of the verse that Reverend Akil gave you. God did not give us a spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. And he allowed all of us to graduate from there and to move on to do great things. I went on to high school and integrated my high school as well, and set up an interracial council because times were still very tense between African Americans and others who lived in that community. People were dying then. If you've seen the movie Just Mercy, that happened in Alabama, where I'm from. All of those things, they're not cartoon characters or made-up people. Those are real people in real families who were victimized. So I encourage you to see the movie Just Mercy if you haven't seen it already. It's a real story that's still happening right now. So that's why I need you, young people, to walk in your authority, to walk in God's power. He's given you so much. You have the confidence, you have the potential, you have greatness on the inside of you. So you don't let anybody put you in a box. Don't let anybody tell you what you can or cannot be. I was always interested in math growing up, and people, who wanted to discourage me said, black girls don't do math. But this black girl did do math and went on to become an engineer and worked on submarines. It exposed me to a lot of people I would have never known if I had not pursued God's path for me and stayed in control of my sound mind. So I say to you, stay in control of your mind. Don't let anybody put you in a box. Don't let anybody tell you what you can or cannot do. You are God's child. You are fearfully and and wonderfully made, and you need to hold on to that all the days of your life. God has a great plan for you. And so when people try to be naysayers and come against you and tell you what you can't be, people tease me because I was tall. They tease me because I was a nerd. But look at what God has created in me now. He has opened doors for me. He has allowed me to have a wonderful career at Johns Hopkins University. Then I went back home to be president of Alabama State University, where I went as an undergraduate, and so many other things that God has allowed me to do in my life. And it's first of all because I put God first. Yeah. I trust God in everything. Even when I didn't understand where God may have been taking me, I trusted the path that he was leading me on. So young people, trust God in everything, and know that when people tease you because you're smart, just embrace it and grab it. Go with it and understand that yes, they'll tease you because you're smart. Yes, they'll tease you because you're tall, but that's okay. Because as I was moving forward, Reverend Akil, I met another young lady who was teased because she was smart and teased because she was tall as well. And we know her, and I want to share an opportunity where the two of us took a picture together. So I encourage you that if you stay with God and understand his plan for you, you too will have an opportunity to grow in grace, to meet great people, to be great as God has called you to be. God has not given you a spirit of fear, but love, power, and a sound mind.